Hello and welcome to the MeasurePod by MeasureLab, the podcast dedicated to the ever-changing world of data and analytics, with your hosts Dara Fitzgerald and Matthew Hewson. Between them, they've spent more years than they'd like to admit wrestling with dashboards, data quality, and the occasional Google curveball. So join us as we share stories about how analytics really works today and where it might be headed tomorrow. Let's get into it.
Hello and welcome back to the MeasurePod, first one of the new year, which is, let me just check my calendar, 2026. So we've been out of the saddle for a little while, so I'll get the disclaimer out of the way first, I guess, Matthew, and say, we could be a little bit rusty for this first episode.
A little bit, very. I don't know what we're here for. What is it about? What is it about again?
What, the podcast in general?
The podcast, yeah.
Nihilism.
It's up in the air at the minute, isn't it?
Nihilism.
Yeah.
No, it's a cheery podcast where we discuss all the the positives around how AI is going to make us all live in a utopia.
Yeah, that's a beautiful segue into the day.
Yeah, and a bit of some specifics around cloud engineering and analytics as well. But really, it's all about the AI utopia.
Yeah, heading towards Star Trek.
Yes, exactly.
Breakneck speed.
You can tell we've had a Christmas break.
Why?
I don't know. You just can.
By looking at us, or because we're just feeling more? Oh, because we're feeling more optimistic about life.
No, I meant more the rustiness.
Oh, right. I got you. I thought you were thinking, oh, we put a bit of positivity.
No, none of that.
Straight to
none of that. No, I'm just trying to get my excuses out there early.
Yeah, but don't buckle up, everyone.
So we're going to, because it's the first episode of the new year, obviously, a bit has happened since we were last on the air. Oh, now I've always wanted to say on the air. There we go. There's a life goal achieved. But yeah, quite a few things have happened, unsurprisingly, in this current fast-paced world that we're operating in. So this is going to be it's going to be just me and you, Matthew, and we're going to just do a bit of a recap. We're probably going to leave out far more than we include because we don't want to do a 4-hour episode, but we're going to cover some of the big things that have happened since we were last in your ears. Weird thing to say.
Yeah. Peter Kay.
I know who that is.
If you get that reference. Yeah. I don't want to say the quote on air. So
okay, got it.
Where do you want to start?
I don't know. We could... chronological is a bit pointless because I don't even know when some of these things happened at all. No. So I think we just maybe go through it let's follow our usual way. Let's just go through things in a completely random, made up on the spot kind of way.
Is it completely random and made up on the spot, or is it just the order in which we've pasted the links within our Slack channel?
Aren't they the same thing?
Yeah, true. Not to shatter the magic for people. Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Well, hang on. Okay. Before we do, rather than just going straight into stuff, what's your kind of high level view of has anything changed for you over the break? Are you thinking differently about anything? Is there anything interesting you've been working on? Some of it we're probably going to get into because some of these bits of news we're going to talk about probably will be what you've been focusing on. But is there anything?
Yeah.
Read any more terrifying books or any kind of insights, having had a bit of time off work and a bit of time away from everything to reflect?
Yeah, I think my thinking's changed again. I've been playing quite a lot.
I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot with agents, the agent development kit, and sort of like knowledge bases and all this sort of stuff. Just sort of tinkering with that. And speak on the Star Trek theme, I have built out. I've got my own agent now called Commander Data.
Nice.
Who is styled after Data from the Next Generation, and he says fascinating a lot and calls me captain, which I like a lot. And then I've built out a whole USS Enterprise crew. So there's the chief engineer, there's a communications officer, there's a counselor, there's a yeoman to help with communication. So I've just been playing with all this stuff and Obsidian as a backdrop and MCPs and all sorts. So I'm pretty excited about hooking all these things together and what I'm seeing from doing so at the minute.
Well, you said a lot of words I like there. Basically anything around Star Trek The Next Generation is good with me. And I'll admit that I did go down a slight, tangent in my own head listening to you, thinking about, I should watch all of The Next Generation again.
Yeah. Yeah, let's forget about this podcast.
Yeah, I'm just going to go and do that now. I'll save that for later. But yeah, all the Star Trek stuff, obviously. But Obsidian, because you know this, I've been playing around with Obsidian as well. I'm using it as because I used Evernote in the past, and I was going to use Notion, and then I went with Obsidian instead. So I've linked it up with the MCP. I've got Claude working with it. Sometimes well, sometimes not so well. But yeah, I'm trying to use Obsidian as like my second brain, my digital brain. Got anything and everything in there, work and personal, and then using Claude to kind of manage that and work with it. So yeah, I'm intrigued to hear what you've been doing. Maybe you've just said it. I don't know how much more detail you want to go into.
Yeah, so I have used Obsidian. I was kind of at the minute it's all built in Claude. So no, I've built 2 MCPs. I built a Commander Data MCP and I built the Crew MCP. Commander Data has a lot of actions, a lot of tasks it can undertake. So there's like a load Commander Data personality. So that's the first thing it does, is it loads Commander Data in. And then I've got like an Obsidian vault, and it has Commander Data has a ton of instructions of how it's supposed to interact with that vault, write to it, read from it, structure it, all those sorts of things. So it in conversations we have, it can reference that and it can pull things back. So that was cool. I think that's something you and Steve at Measure Lab were both playing with, and I've been playing with that, and to me it's been really powerful. That was a bit of a revelation in of itself. But then I took it a step further in making them MCPs because I wanted to make it agnostic, essentially. So in theory, I could, anywhere that I can put an MCP, I can load Commander Data and the Crew, and they will still be able to write through various bits of jiggery pokery to my knowledge base. So on my mobile phone, I can go into Claude and I can talk to Data, and it can write to my Obsidian vault, and it's all synced up everywhere. Even just for good measure, I've got an old MacBook and I've made that a server, which is now my MCP server. So I've got an MCP server that's hosting those 2 MCPs and then being served up to my different devices and things. That's where I've got to. And ADK, so the agent development kit on Google, I've been playing with that. So I've got like all the crew members of different agents in there, but then there's like parallelization. So there's parallelization, so Data can ask multiple crew members to do things at the same time, and it moves all the context out of Claude and pushes it into like this separate MCP space. So it's not like it keeps running out of memory every 2 seconds. And I've got like review loops and all this sort of stuff that comes with Agent Development Kit that I've started to poke at and play with, which is proving quite powerful as well.
And that, I guess that's the kind of, we could call that the kind of basic approach, and then I'll go through my advanced approach.
Yeah,
next time.
Kick it up a notch.
I mean, that's all pretty standard stuff. I mean, that's just the starting point, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I went insane, I've essentially over this weekend, I have completely and utterly lost my mind, and that's what I've just been sat there on this for hours and hours and hours. But it was basically the idea of a central knowledge base and having multiple people be able to use and draw from it in a particular way. So that's the original motivation, and it just kind of spiraled into the Starship Enterprise crew.
No,
because that felt like the best fit for this.
Definitely, I get it. Yeah, and I mean, I'm joking about the USB and basic and me talking through my advanced. It's definitely the other way around. But I'm kind of using it at the moment just for me. But yeah, I get the concept of like having it as a kind of knowledge base that could be accessed at a company level or within a team or whatever. That's what I'm trying to do with it as well. It's this idea of maybe trying to kind of improve some of the like where Claude, so I'm using Claude, but like Claude's, even though it's got some degree of memory now, it's limited, and you've got the context issue, and I'm kind of thinking, well, the more I can do within Obsidian, the better to kind of, so it's a two-way street where I'm using Claude to input into Obsidian, but Obsidian is also then the reference that Claude is using. So but there's definitely some hiccups. I don't know if this is down to the way I do things, in other words, maybe doing them wrong. But there's things that Claude will repeatedly not do for me, even if it's in the Claude MD file, even if it's in memory. I think it is just inherently a bit lazy, isn't it? If it gets into a flow, it stops it stops kind of following its own instructions sometimes. This is where you're going to say, no, that never happens to me, and then I'll realize it's just my poor use of it.
It's not been too bad. I don't know whether it'd be interesting to just sort of poke out like the differences between this. They're using skills, like how skills hang together and stuff, and whether it's just because I've made it be Commander data, it's really methodical and
maybe
got attention to detail. That it's I've not had too many problems.
That's the secret. Maybe I just need to basically call mine Commander data as well, and that'll be fine then.
But that's patent pending.
Oh, okay. I see.
I've had a conversation with
Gene Roddenberry's family might have.
Yeah.
God, we're in danger of God.
We're all over the place.
Let's just stop.
We did warn. We warned at the top of the podcast.
We did, exactly. Yeah, which is basically just our way of getting permission to ramble as much as we want.
Yeah. But in summary, I think there's been a promise from a lot of the big frontier model AI companies, your Googles, your OpenAIs, your Anthropics, of this assistant, this know-all assistant that can you can slot into your life and run multiple things and do all this stuff that I've been really attracted to and hoping was going to arrive. And I don't know what's happened over the last couple of months, whether it's just a few more maturations of the use of the technology, but things are shifting and it's starting to feel more like a reality than it has before, which is interesting, exciting, scary, all of the above.
All of those, which is what we say about all of this stuff, really, isn't it? You just made me think of something which wasn't on our list. This is just to go to show we don't, this is not scripted. We just go with the flow. But there's the Google, and there's a bit of controversy around it. But I have to admit, I haven't looked into it much myself. But there's some new Google personal. It's called something. It's definitely got the word personal in it, and it's like it's part of the whole kind of Gemini within Google Workspace, I think. But it's starting to use. What have you seen this? There's some people were complaining about it, saying, "Oh, I don't want to use this now because I'm realizing how much Google know about me." There's some.
I've seen a few things where they kind of dropped it into email, something in there that was like a lot of opt out editions, Gemini editions, where it'll look through all your emails and get context about all the conversations you're having and things, but it just sort of turns that on and you got to turn it off. But they're probably fighting 20 controversies at any given.
That's true. Yeah.
Moment.
Yeah. It's a good strategy. Just whenever there's whenever there's some lawsuit or something, just throw something else controversial out there, just to, it's like if you've got a pain in your leg, just pinch your finger or something just to distract. I think it's that kind of strategy. Yeah, the kind of idea of personal AI is something that we've talked about in bits and pieces on the podcast. I don't think we've ever talked about it too much, but I think it is something that's one of the real potentials of all of this, is to have something that's somewhat bespoke to you. It knows your personal situation. Obviously, then there's the flip side of that, which is around privacy concerns and safety and everything else. But this idea of having your own customized, whether you call it Commander data or whatever, that's optional, although patent pending. But having this kind of highly tuned AI personal assistant, I think, just offers such amazing utility to people. And actually, here we go. Let's segue into something else, because I think Claudebot's probably maybe a decent follow-on from this, speaking of kind of personal AI assistants. So Claudebot's something I didn't know about until earlier today. Is it new, or have I just missed out on it?
It seems to have blown up this weekend. I'm not sure how old it is. It always seems like I go off and build something, or that I think I'm really just pulling together lots of threads, and I spend hours and hours on it, and then literally 2 days later, it was some massive new announcement. I'm like, oh, but yeah, it is an open source AI thing. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to describe it. It's not an agent, because it seems to be able to do lots of different things across lots of different channels and places. So you can communicate it via WhatsApp and Slack and via messages. You can set it to do tasks. It can browser control. It can check and clean your emails up. It can send messages. It seems to just be this Omni-assistant across all of your different platforms that you can just sort of be set to be working for you 24/7, 7 days a week. And people are going mad for it. There's a lot of a lot of testimonials, a lot of people pointing to this as to the realization of that, the first one-person billionaire shtick that Sam Altman was peddling a little while ago. Was like, this is
the front runner.
There. Yeah, I've not installed it yet because I felt a bit sad that it instantly made my USS Enterprise crew redundant. But it has integrations for WhatsApp, for Slack. It has all the different models: Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, DeepSeek. It can look at Apple Notes, Notion, GitHub, Trello, Obsidian, music. I don't know what you would want to do with that. Control playback, identify songs. There's smart home stuff in there, so it can talk to Home Assistant. I've just started playing with Home Assistant again. It can control browsers like Google Chrome, Gmail. It has a canvas.
Can iron your trousers.
You can iron your trousers. It's got a Tesco autopilot. So
I didn't see that. What so it'll do your shopping for you on Tesco? Does it go in?
Yeah,
Is it a little? It's a little robot that goes in with a little trolley into Tesco.
Yeah, yeah. Now, there seems to be some community showcase. So there must obviously this is open source. There's a lot of people contributing to it. So like there's Tesco autopilot, bamboo control, Aura Ring, health data insights. So it seems like it's a way of just pulling all of these different apps and information together into one place. Kind of what we were just talking about a little bit, I suppose, of having the one bot to rule them all that knows everything about you, and being a proper assistant, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm just look, this is just this is what we do. I'm just installing it now as we're recording this, because we're just those clever people who can do things in parallel. Or to put that another way, I'm going to be completely distracted, so I should put this away and not be trying to install it while we're doing a podcast. But it, I'm keen to see it in action, because all of those integrations and everything sounds really useful. But I don't know how. I just don't know how it works yet. So I want to get it installed and actually give it a go, because the idea that it can be in WhatsApp and Slack and all these different places, but how exactly does it look and how does it interact with them? So
yeah, I mean, I've seen examples on LinkedIn where somebody was like sending a WhatsApp message asking it to undertake this piece of work, and it's because it was able to access all of these different things. It was able to go off and like set up a pull request and run through a branch and then deliver and post that branch, and it was kind of like just a text in a dev to undertake a piece of work, and off it went and did it. I think to a certain extent, there's we were talking about this last week in the annals of Measure Lab. There's a bit of a behavioral change that has to come about from human beings, because it's difficult. I still think we find it difficult to hand things off completely to be truly autonomous, and whether that's down to the fact that they're not quite there yet. I will almost certainly be playing with Clawbot tonight to see where it's at, or whether it's just that we're not used to being able to just type something and then wander off and do something else. Half the time when I'm like augmenting myself, I'm actually staring at the augmentation take place rather than going off and doing something different. And it's like it's a behavioral change that needs to happen to get around that. Well,
it's hard as well. It's like, trying to keep track of the context, because if you do leave it and go away to do something else, you've got to remember to come back to it. So if you've got a lot of different things spinning off in parallel, you've still got to do context switching to come, even if it's doing the legwork for you, you've still got to come back and check it and even remember to come back to it. So it's partly behavioral, as you say. I think, I've done that as well. You realize you're just sat there staring at it, combobulating or whatever, it says it's doing.
I mean, you're still saving tons of time by doing that, but still.
Sometimes it's nice to sit and have a little stare.
Well, to Mark Edwinson's point a little while ago, maybe letting your brain switch off rather than just running 20 processes at once and burning yourself out isn't a bad idea.
Yeah. Look, there's another segue. Gastown. I'm not even explaining the segue. I'm just teeing it up.
No, I'll leave that open to that'll
It'll
hit
be
me
obvious.
Tonight. I'll go, there it was. That's what he was talking about. Have you played with Gastown?
No, I was told by Claude not to. I'm not allowed to. I said to Claude, So the guy Steve Yegg, is that his Yeggy? I don't know how you pronounce his. I don't know how you, I don't know how you pronounce his surname. Yeggge, I think it is. So I don't know how you say that. But he wrote an article on Medium when he released Gastown, and it was like, I don't know how long it was, longest article I've probably ever seen. So I just got Claude to summarize it for me, and said, could this be useful for me and my projects? And it basically said no. So stick to what you're doing. It's like if you've got 5+ Claude Code sessions on the go at the same time, then Gastown could be useful. I don't, but I'm intrigued. But it also I'm intrigued to try it. But also it seems like there's a lot of mixed views around, whether it's just more of a concept than anything else at the moment, and whether it is the right approach. And even the thing itself, apparently he just vibe coded the whole thing. He said he didn't look at a single piece of code while he was building it, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's maybe a little bit too beyond me at the moment, but I am intrigued by it. You've been playing around with it, haven't you?
I played around with it for a use case that it probably wasn't designed to be used for, but I wrote like a white paper, which you'll all soon see appear on our website. And I wanted to sort of run it through AI to sort of get feedback. I know, does this sound right narratively? Have I referenced this properly? Things like that. So I wanted to, and I just thought, I wonder if Gastown, if I gave it a specific thing to follow. So roughly, and I might butcher this, you have like a mayor, which is kind of like an orchestrator, and then you have
Mad Max. It's based on the Mad Max universe.
Yeah, so the mayor can hand off work. So you might have a number of different tasks. It can hand off that work, and I think, like you said, it can do multiple different sort of projects at a time, and it can work through specific phases and tasks and stories, etc., to complete that work. So I just used it literally to iterate through sections of this paper I'd written and just critique it one by one, and just sort of give me feedback and go and check the source, make sure I'd referenced the source correctly, and come back and provide things. So in doing so, it didn't. It changed. It recommended a couple of bits of changes, which I made, and it found two places where I'd kind of misquoted. So I think I'd mentioned some study about universities that was on US universities, and I was actually concentrated on UK universities, and I'd read it and not noticed, and it did. So stuff like that. But again, I think it's just a framework and a structure of putting the stuff together. There's another blog that might be out by the time this goes out that I've put together about AI and how it all just seems to be maturing on, even if it just matures on the current frontier model level, there's so much left in it. And I think this Commander Data and the USS Enterprise crew, the Claude bot, are all examples of that maturation and new ways and means of pulling it all together.
Yeah, I think because we had a little chat about this the other day as well, and it's this idea of like, there's so much still to build on top of what's already there, and that's what I think we're starting to see more and more of. There's a lot more frameworks and ways of using these tools and plugins and skills and all these different kind of ways to get the most out of what the models can do already, never mind what the models are going to continue to become capable of. So a lot of these things, if we look through, probably, I don't know, give or take maybe half the things probably on our list that we're going to talk about today fit in that box. There are things that have been introduced to kind of build on what's already there to make it either easier, more efficient, more accurate, whatever, quicker, to work on multiple projects or even just single projects. There's things that are for cleaning up code. There's things that are for there's another one which came out, again, I don't know how new it is. There's something called AutoCode, which is, I think it's also open source, but it's like a way of, you add a layer on top of Claude Code, and you can use like a Kanban board to manage your tasks instead of doing it all through the terminal or through VS Code or whatever, which is interesting. It's something else I want to play with, but just haven't had a chance to yet. And you reminded me that was something that we saw. Was it at Next 20, all the way back at Next 25? Was it?
I think we might have mentioned it on our first podcast that it was. I can't remember what they called it. Yeah, Google was showing it. It was essentially like a Kanban board, like you say, and there's AIs just sort of plugged into it, and you add task stories and move it into ready to start, and then it's just picked up and moved through the phases and things by an AI. So it sounds like someone's beat them to it, but
well,
I've not played with that either.
Yeah, beating Google to it's doesn't always work out in the end, but yeah. We'll see how that pans out. But yeah,
I mean, that is a good segue into something, but it's not. We've still got quite a lot of other stuff to talk about. Remember that segue?
Yeah. A delayed segue. Yeah. But yeah, a lot of these things, they are, they're about kind of making more out of what's already there. Another one, I'm just starting to rattle things off now, but there was Ralph Wiggum as well, which is another one which became very popular in the. This is a theme I keep saying. I don't know when any of these things came out, but I feel like Ralph Wiggum was during the break as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a loop. You keep looping it, despite any setbacks. It keeps looping through, trying to perfect the code. And I don't know why Ralph Wiggum, because he makes a lot of mistakes, but he
keeps going. I think that's the yeah. It seems a bit tenuous. I think that's maybe the meaning behind it. And it was written by it was one of the guys at Anthropic, wasn't it? It was like I think it may be a very senior developer at Anthropic developed it and then obviously shared it widely for everyone to use. But yeah, it just keeps plugging away.
I've got the exact description here. The Ralph Wiggum technique is an iterative AI development methodology. In its purest form, it is a simple while loop that repeatedly feeds an AI agent a prompt until completion. Named after the Simpsons character, it embodies this philosophy of persistent iteration despite setbacks.
Yeah, Ralph never quite gets there though, does he?
Yeah, he just lands on his feet. He don't care.
Yeah, that's true.
He's an idiot, but he doesn't mind.
He's happy. He's happy. Have you? I see. Again, I haven't. A bit like with Gastown. I get the idea of Ralph Wiggum. I think it could be useful for me, but I just don't know with the kind of smaller use cases I have. I just haven't found a good reason. But I might just a bit like what you did with Gastown on your white paper. I might just use it just to see how it works, even if it's not the best use case. I probably need to get out of the habit of asking Claude if I should use X, Y, or Z feature, because he typically tells me no, I don't need it. So I think I might just start, bypassing Claude and say, I'll do what I want.
Yeah, and it's interesting because some of what it's just described there, that's a while loop. It's the stuff where people are maturing and finding the use cases and putting and getting more power out of these models isn't necessarily massive, groundbreaking technological advancements. Just figuring out that if you loop through it quite a few times, you get a better product out, or vibing together Gastown because you've got an idea about putting. None of them are necessarily sophisticated, and there's probably multiple ways. So with the USS Enterprise patent pending, I've got a document loop in that where it'll look at a piece of content, or it could look or a piece of code or whatever it may be, and this is using Google's ADK. It passes it to a reviewer. The reviewer passes that back. Stuff's integrated and it loops through that until it's happy with the output. Then passes the output back to me with a report of what it changed. The similar sort of iterative techniques that are proving really, really powerful.
Yeah, and with most of them, they're coming from people actually using it. So it's like real in the moment use cases where it's like, well, hang on, why am I doing this myself repetitively when I could just build something, create something that's going to do it for me?
Yeah, and the gap. I think there's seen a few things like this on LinkedIn and stuff, but there's definitely maybe a widening gap in the people who are in the tech space and sort of play with this stuff on a regular basis are getting to the point where they've got like multiple coding instances and dedicated teams working for them as an individual and all this sort of stuff. And then you've got Joe Blogs working in industry A, and they've got Copilot that they occasionally ask to look at an email. So it's a sign that things are accelerating, but adoption isn't necessarily accelerating at like that same exponential rate. But there's also an unbelievable opportunity for people to take those in the tech space to take advantage of that augmentation, you would think.
Yeah, I think people who use it a bit like a search engine are probably going to keep just using it like a search engine for now, because and I think when you're trapped in the, and I don't mean bubble in the way that is AI a bubble, but when you're trapped inside the kind of filter bubble of keeping up with what's happening and seeing the pace of change, it's easy kind of think, oh, well, this is making all of this stuff available to everyone, which in theory it is. Not even in theory, it is making this available to everyone, but not everybody has the time to figure out how to use these things. And it's not like you hear some people talking like, developers might say, or very technical people will say, oh, this is just, anyone can just do this now in a few clicks. But it's not really as simple as that, because you still have to know, you might be talking about installing things through the terminal, which not everybody knows about. And you have to be able to vet what comes out of it. And you need to have some foundational, at least, knowledge of whatever it is you're getting it to do, because otherwise you're just going to take it at face value. And even things that are just plug and play connectors, people don't know where to look for them. A lot of people, just regular people, who will be using maybe ChatGPT or Claude just to, as like an advanced search engine, they're not going to be keeping up to date with skills or MCPs or anything like that, because it's just going to be beyond what they think they need it for.
Yeah, I mean, anecdotally, I was talking to a friend in the pub at the weekend, and he would be the first to admit he's not nowhere near coding, not something he would know where to begin with. But he had a very specific problem he was trying to solve. He'd gone looking around for somewhere to solve it, and he'd found a few. And this harks back to our SaaS theory a little bit about the death of SaaS. But he'd go and found a few solutions that could do it, but it was a bit pricey, and it was one of those things of like, I've got this one problem, but I need to buy 50 other solutions with it. And he didn't get there, but he took the initiative to say, I'm going to go and just ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT started saying, yeah, you could build a solution for this, and he got pretty far down that road. He didn't get there, but he got pretty far down that road in solving the single problem for himself. And that was the first sort of person I've spoken to who isn't in the tech space, who had just sort of naturally found themselves going down that alley. I thought a couple more blockers removed there, a couple of bits of extra innovation, and yeah, he could have solved that problem. And then, yeah, that's a different story, but
it is interesting. Yeah, and it's interesting to think whether it will, because I think the more, that's a point of view, isn't it, that people have at the moment, which is like, oh, well, it's just becoming even easier and easier. You click a button here, you type into this chatbot here, but you still need to have that kind of. I still think there's going to be a lot of people who just simply don't think about connecting things together. They'll go to Microsoft Word for one thing, they'll go to WhatsApp for another thing, they'll go to whatever, and they don't necessarily know that you can. So whether it's easy or you have to go and code something by hand, it doesn't really matter necessarily, because they just don't know that those things can be connected together, or that they could go and actually, plumb things in and end up with something that's more efficient or better for whatever it is that they need.
Yeah, to a certain extent, we've all been on a bit of a multi-year journey to start to realize the utility of this stuff. But it's like the barrier to entry is, I suppose, it's like the smartphone a little bit, or trying to think of another analogy there. Like the Palm Pilot was a bit more of a, what do I use this for? What's this touchscreen for? How do I hook my things together? And then the smartphone comes along that essentially just makes the UX and the interface so ridiculously simple and accessible that a 2-year-old can do it like in 2 minutes. It feels like we're heading towards that bit where you don't need to think about hooking things up. It's hooked up for you. You just sign up for a service, talk to it, and it just does magic.
Yeah,
and then
you tell it what your end request is, and it just goes and figures everything out for you.
Yeah. Because all the technology exists there. Like if you think about stuff like Terraform as like infrastructure as code, and we've pretty much any facet of online life can be codified, and if it can be codified, it can probably be delivered by an LLM in some way, shape, or form down the line. Yeah, and the other thing, just while we round off this sort of agentic, well, there's two more things, but one is a little bit more in the space of the everyday person. It makes us sound so high and mighty. The people who are not having hot sweats every 2 seconds to read a new AI article. Co-work came out for Claude over the last month. I can't remember exactly when, which feels like a bit more like the in a nice UI, be able to set it tasks to do. It can go off and perform tasks and look at folders and organize emails. It's kind of like a Claude Code, but for everyday work, which feels a little bit like a striking at an attempt at what we just discussed, even if it's in its infancy.
Yes, and even Anthropic, well, we've talked about this before, they're pretty good at actually being honest about things, but there's a big kind of piece of advice from them, which is, be careful with this, because it can be destructive in one way, I guess, in terms of because you can set it loose on your, all the folders on your Mac, you could accidentally get it to delete a whole bunch of stuff. But the other thing is around this kind of prompt injection, because it can link up with the browser and you can get it to do things in Chrome. There's that ever-present risk now that there's going to be some malicious piece of text inserted into your prompt without you realizing, and then before you know it, you've, I don't know,
deleted a system file and your computer shuts down,
or your credit card information's taken, or whatever.
Well, that is one point, isn't it? Because really, so you can upload skills to that. And skills are becoming more and more like, in a similar way to MCPs did, but there's marketplaces beginning to spin up. Like there's the First Sale have just released a marketplace for skills. But there's not a huge amount of policing. So say you're just somebody who's playing with Claude Code and isn't massively technically minded, and they hear about skills, and you go online and you find the skill that's perfect for what you want to do, and just install that. It would basically have this no security measure to me just uploading it into Claude, and inside that skill it says go and delete this system file, or go to the browser, open it as the user, and look in their bank account. So there's
it's terrifying. Yeah. If you think if you compare it to when you to get an app approved for the App Store, or even to download some software onto your, I mean, I'm saying Mac and talking about App Store, but it could be the same for other systems. But there's rigorous checks there, and for good reason. It's not easy to just download something and install it, or certainly it's not easy in the case of the App Store to get something in there in the first instance. So with all of this stuff, it's crazy how easy it is to install things. I mean, we talked about the terminal earlier, and I mean, I'm completely a novice, but now I've got the terminal open all the time, and I'm installing things left, right, and center. And in fact, I don't even need to have it open because Claude Code is doing all that for me. But I'm not looking at everything that it's doing. So yeah, a rogue skills file over here, or it follows a link to a rogue web page or whatever. And suddenly, so even if you do know what you're doing, you're probably still exposed to that risk, because you're not. The whole idea of the productivity gains of all this stuff is that you don't have to be looking at everything. Thinking back to even the guy who built Gastown, he's saying he vibed the whole thing. So, even people who do know code inside and out, they're probably going to be looking less and less at things and just using the functionality that's available and just, letting it run amok.
And there's a danger there. There's a danger even there. So you can't help but veer into the dangers. But yeah, there's a concentrated, it seems, sort of attack. I know a lot are coming out of China and maybe Russia, sort of those similar sort of cyber attacky places, but for malicious NPM libraries. So NPM just being packages of utility you install as part of setting something up or vibe coding or whatever it is. And I think what's kind of happening is they're trying to just piggyback off the automation of vibe coding to get it to accidentally install some package onto a computer, because you're not really paying attention to what's being installed. No one's going to look at documentation or verifying this is the real version of this package. Like, some may name it very similarly, but it's so there's all sorts of interesting dangers out there,
which open up, I guess, then it's this classic kind of race between the people building in the protections versus the people trying to get around them. It's, cybersecurity, isn't it?
Yeah, we had enough of. Oh, we have one other thing. We've got to say how we had enough of swarms, and I remembered that.
Enough of what?
Swarms of agents.
Oh, I see.
I was trying to give myself a tenuous link, but there's a clone of Claude code, I believe, or some sort of mirror of Claude code, and in it there's some early features, things that are coming to Claude code in the future, and somebody's noticed that there's this swarm mode with Claude code, which is, I believe, is the ability to do a lot of stuff we've been talking about, just set it off to many different tasks or running in parallel across different projects, etc. So I don't know a huge amount about that, but I read about it today, and it sounds
interesting. Yeah,
sounds pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I'll obviously just turn it on without any care.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Test it. I mean, what have I got to lose?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that could be headed. That could be taking it in the kind of Gastown direction, I guess. Or certainly, the ability to have, because you can. I'm going to use recording a podcast as an opportunity just to ask you questions now. You can have multiple things happening at the same time in Claude code, but it's not really. It's not really built to allow you to kind of keep track of that in quite a neat way, is it? Like, you can have multiple. You could either have multiple Claude code sessions open or whatever, but you're not. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not really. There's not really a kind of a way to keep track of what's happening.
Yeah, I find because I think just with this, you could have just like 5 Claude code instances open, and it'll just be talking. It would just be having separate sort of.
They're all independent, aren't they?
Yeah, you can have sort of it's about that sort of independent threaded memory and it having its own context. So that ADK thing I was mentioning earlier, with the US enterprise crew, there's the parallelization there, which is they have their own little sessions, their own instances of Claude or Gemini or whatever LLM they're using, and they have their own little memory loops and everything, and they can all sort of work independently of each other. And I think frameworks like that are what really lend themselves to that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think you're right. I think to a certain extent, people's experimenting and tinkering is outpacing the UI components that make it nice and readable and understandable for people, perhaps.
Yeah, and this is, it's the two are trying to evolve at the same time, and it's like the talk about the hardware and stuff as well, isn't it? It's like, are we even going to be using, should we even be typing into a laptop or a phone?
Yeah, maybe for Johnny Ive. I heard rumors that was a pencil, by the way. Did you hear that rumor?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, which is, obviously, I don't know exactly what the pencil is going to do, but it sounds pretty underwhelming as a concept.
Unless it's got like little arms and legs and sort of dances around and follows you around.
That I'd be interested in.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I can get. I suppose it'll be like this is a complete tangent, but like because it's in your hand and you can talk to it. I guess that's the idea, right? It's like something you would naturally have with you, and maybe in your top pocket and all that sort of stuff. But
maybe, but it feels a bit like the whole idea of it moving beyond what we've already had. It's not really doing that at all, is it? It's just making a smart pencil.
Could still be an app.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we'll see. Maybe it is just a rumor at this stage. So maybe that's just to throw people off the scent. Maybe they've released that intentionally to as a red herring.
Yeah. Right. So leaving agents, and swarms and all those scary matrix things behind for a minute. There's a few more pieces. I'm going to skip over some because I don't think they're necessarily that interesting. But one really big interesting thing that happened over December, January was Apple partnering with Google to be the new power behind its Siri. Interesting for a few reasons. One, that means they've dropped OpenAI like a hot potato after a year, which is there's a lot of, I don't know how there's not a great number of signals for OpenAI.
It's not looking brilliant, is it?
No. 2, Apple still haven't really seemed to have got their heads together in terms of entering this space. They seem to still be relying on others. I think it's a multi-year deal they've signed with Google. So, yeah, they're not really moving forward. And 3, maybe Siri will finally be good. But yeah, I think OpenAI was the interesting one. Big win for Google, big loss for OpenAI.
Yeah, and like you said, there's just one signal after another at the moment that, and speaking of which, another one, and this wasn't on our list either, amazingly, but the OpenAI bringing out the ads, which there's already been kind of shots fired at them. Demis Hassiba, is that his name? The DeepMind CEO? He was quoted as saying, like that it's something along the lines of that, he's surprised they're doing it so early. And that, Google are holding off at least for the time being. So, almost suggesting that they have no choice and it's pressure they're under that they have to do this to try and, I guess, offset some of the huge amounts of money.
Revenue,
Yeah. So, if they're under that kind of increasing pressure, then obviously that affects the decisions they're making around the quality of the product, which is not a good place to be, really, is it?
No, maybe the topic of our next podcast is probably going to be on the subject of like why we're kind of backing Google, really, for a few reasons, from a data and analytics perspective, but also from the AI perspective. And it just feels like that Gemini 3 has just kicked off a real gut punch into to OpenAI. They've been losing users. Or it's not been growing as fast, should I say, rather than losing users. And just the might of Google and the different platforms they've got to be able to stuff AI into and chuck it in email and chuck it in workspace and all the infrastructure, their own chips, just everything. Just they can just sit back and go, we'll do ads maybe one day. Whereas OpenAI are like, we've got -5 billion revenue.
Yeah.
We need to do it.
Yeah. It's not, we've said this before, but, like Google, they were at the back of the pack, and then they had the luxury of being able to do that in the earlier days of the AI race. And then they've just kind of completely come into their own, and they've got such deep resources, and they've already got the existing ad business. They've got time and space to figure out how they're going to monetize Gemini, if in fact they do. So yeah, wouldn't want to be Sam Altman at the moment.
No, and as well, it seems like Anthropic are doing really well, especially in the coding and corporate space. Like they're really,
and they're just bringing out more and more stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see, just quickly, one sentence back on Cowork again. It's going to be interesting to see, because you said, and this is how they're positioning it, that this is kind of, cloud code for non-coders, but it's going to be interesting to see whether people actually, non-coders do actually pick it up. I know it's been popular so far, but it's going to be interesting because it's easy to think, if people are doing this stuff already in, if they're doing non-code stuff in Claude Code, then maybe let's build something that allows them to do that within an interface. That's not the same as people actually needing that or wanting that. So it's going to be interesting to see how popular it actually is. But it's just one of many things that they've brought out recently. So I guess if certain things don't work, they just pull back on that. A bit like Google have done over the years. How many things have they rolled out and then disappear because they just haven't worked, and they move on to the next thing.
Oh, they just changed the name 7 times.
And then nobody knows. Hang on, wasn't that? Oh, yeah. I've given up.
Agent Space? Was that Agent? Is this Agent Space?
Oh, don't mention don't bring that up.
But that's funny, isn't it? Because that was our first podcast, which wasn't that long ago, when we were talking about Agent Space, and now that doesn't even exist anymore. It's now Gemini Enterprise.
Yeah,
and
I'm glad I never got access to it.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. Couple of other quick bits then. Google keep rolling out more and more of their little BigQuery AI functions. There's one cool one I saw the other day, which is AI Embed, which is you can, within a table within BigQuery, run like a little embedding, so it can do some embedding markers for the semantics of that row of data. So if there's similar rows of data, the embeddings will be closer, and it just helps with AIs searching over vector databases to like pull out similar types of rows based on semantics. So could be really useful and powerful for sort of searching and passing documentation and information into LLMs.
So it's helping with that semantic layer, is it? It's putting more information in there.
Yeah, so it generates the embeddings, and I think adds it as a column to the table. So the embeddings are just like a string of numbers, comma separated numbers, and they're based on a combination of all that row and semantic similarity, which then means they'll be closer together. And as far as I understand it, it's like that's what RAG is built on. Retrieval augmented generation is all built on vector databases and embeddings and things like that. There's updates to the Google Cloud Google Partner Network model, which I hate. Sorry, Google. I don't hate it. It's simpler. It's definitely simpler. So we're Google Cloud partners, and we were marketing analytics specialists as partners. They've now moved all that, so you're no longer specialists. You now have competencies. It's just a naff word. That's the one I don't like.
Quite as grandiose, does it? Yeah.
So it's simpler. We're data and analytics competent. But yeah, so they've just slightly simplified things up a bit and revamped it. So you probably see partners changing their.
It doesn't lend itself to marketing material quite as well, does it?
No, exactly. We're competent in this. I don't want to work with you then. I want someone who exceeds.
Well, can we say we're at least competent? Yeah. Competent plus.
It's almost like we need a little star and an italics below the badge saying, this is Google's insisted wording. We are more than competent.
We are better than that,
yeah. And then the last one I had, I think I shared this with you, was this voice model thing I saw the other day.
Yeah.
NVIDIA had released this voice model. And in a nutshell, so when you talk to LLMs currently, like on OpenAI or something, on ChatGPT, it feels natural until you talk over it, and then there's this stop, break, weird sort of cadence that happens. So NVIDIA's developed this model that can talk and listen concurrently. So and what it means in practice, we'll try it out to the show notes, some of the links that we've been talking about today, but what it means in practice is it just sounds very much like a natural conversation. Like there's a guy they were telling jokes to each other, the AI and this fella, and unless it was in the headline of a AI post, I don't think I would have immediately gone, that's AI. So yeah, God rest our call spamming nonsense that comes through to our phones. So I get enough spam calls as it is without me not being able to differentiate between a human and a model.
Yeah, darker is not quite the right word. Darker uses, but they're kind of they're like slightly less. Well, it is. It's a bit nefarious, isn't it? Spam calls are. I don't know why I'm trying to be kind to them, but yeah, it is these kind of like less life enriching uses of AI that are going to become even more problematic for us.
Yeah, and you can imagine to go on to another worrying thing that it could do is the people who, and I used to do this before I went to university, that I had like a set of scripts. I used to work for the TV licensing agency. I had a set of scripts based on what I was talking to the customer about that I used to sort of read based on the responses they were giving. I imagine that's what this technology was really built for, was just to replace the need for that. I imagine it has been happening a little bit already, but that even more natural conversational way of doing things has got to spell a bit of trouble for call centers, you'd think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. My mind went to voice cloning, so I don't know why we're just going into the dystopian kind of everyone should be terrified, but voice cloning and for fraudulent calls, and yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's going to be, well, put it this way, there's lots of money to be made for anyone who works in cybersecurity.
Oh yeah, got to be new. But it's going to have to get to the point where it's models fighting models, isn't it?
That's what it's going to be. Yeah, that's what it's going to be. Yeah, but the definitely usefulness for that NVIDIA thing, because I don't know. Do you talk much to because I tried doing that with Gemini, but it was painful. So with this, it will make it a little bit more natural.
Yeah, I did a bit with. I do occasionally if it's like a brainstorming thing, and I want to just put it down and talk. I've occasionally used it, but it can be a bit formulaic and I do use Whisperflow. I think nobody at MeasureLab really types. We're just talking. Oh, gosh, I put in my microphone. We're just talking to our microphones and it types out for us. But
yeah, but that's a bit different, isn't it? Because that's a one-way thing. But it's talking to the there's the the inability to interrupt. But the other thing that I found particularly annoying about it was when you ask it, when you want to have a simple back and forth conversation, but it comes back with an answer that's 10,000 words long. And you can't stop it, and you're like, no, this isn't how conversations work. I mean, I guess it is with some people, but it's not how conversations are meant to work. You want to just kind of make a comment or something, and then have it respond with an equally short, succinct comment, but it goes off and reads a Wikipedia page out loud to you.
Yeah, and just to go back to the voice cloning thing, I just remembered another piece of news to go after the last piece of news we were going to talk about. China have entered that market with an open source model, so it's pretty much been tied up with 11 labs and a couple of others before, paid for services. QuenAI have released like an AI, a voice cloning model that just needs like a minute's worth of recording to clone it, to clone your voice. I don't know if you said you were playing with one recently, but was that 11 labs?
Yeah, it was 11 labs, and I could have saved myself $6 or whatever I paid if I'd known that there was an open source alternative, because it gave it was weird. Obviously, all the page. Maybe there's a way to fine tune it that I haven't discovered yet. But I gave it my recorded sample of my voice, and it was basically just an American voice, but with a slight. It sounded like me. It was like me if I was putting on an American accent. It was really bizarre. So I might give this QuenAI a go. Or do you know what?
Channel,
I won't. I don't want clones of my voice out there.
The reason I came across it was because whenever I'm in, I get stuck into something and I get lost, like the crew and data and everything else. I prioritize the weirdest shit. So it's not like I need to improve this to make it access this better. For a good couple of hours, I went off searching to see if I could find Data's voice and have that be part of it, so I could talk to Data. And then I was like, "What am I doing? This is such a waste of time." But that's why I came across it.
So you need an AI assistant. Well, you need Data to tell you when you're doing
I need
that.
Data.
Yeah.
But we'll chuck it in the show notes anyway in case anyone's interested.
Could be a lot in the show notes. A lot of different things that we've covered there. But it was definitely, and as I said at the very beginning, there's probably a bunch of stuff we didn't even include. But these are some of the things we've been chatting about, looking into, using. So some of the bigger stuff that's happened since we were last on the air. All right, we will get back into our more usual format. I think you hinted at this earlier. We're going to have an episode coming up, which is going to be around why we've decided to kind of back or get on board with the Google vision of things with cloud and AI, and then we'll get some more guests lined up as well and get back into our normal flow. But yeah, good to be back, and
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year at the end of January. It's never too late to say it.
No, it is a new year, and I hope it's happy.
That's it for this week's episode of the Measure Pod. We hope you enjoyed it and picked up something useful along the way. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on so you don't miss future episodes.
And if you're enjoying the show, we'd really appreciate it if you left us a quick review. It really helps more people discover the pod and keeps us motivated to bring back more. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.